Hi guys, I am really excited to tell you about this book about flowers and how they got their names. It's called Wildflowers and the Stories Behind Their Names by Phyllis S. Busch. I love learning about the history of plants and how they get their names and what the stories behind them, and that is exactly what this book is. So I wanted to share some of my favorites from it with you, and I hope you enjoy it too. On page 1, it talks about the naming of plants. Plants have always played a vital part in our lives. Think of the different kinds of plant foods that you eat every day: salad greens, peanut butter, rice, fruit, and many more. Appropriately, the word botany, meaning plants, comes from the Greek word boskine, to feed. Since ancient times, plants and their juices have also been used to prevent or cure sickness. Plants are a source of products such as wood, dyes, rubber, perfume, tar, fibers, and cosmetics. But perhaps their most delightful contribution is the pleasure and inspiration that plants and the knowledge of plants have brought to artists, poets, storytellers, or anyone who has ever stopped to admire the wonder of a wildflower. I am going to share the pictures of the flowers that are in here. The artist did such a good job, and I'll do a picture of each of them after the description of the plant. On page 2, it says, the most common names usually describe something about the plant: its color or scent, where it is found, what familiar object it resembles, or what it is used or might be used for. Sometimes the name is the result of a story, a myth, or a legend. The plant name may include several of these references. For example, the name buttercup suggests that the flower has a shape like a cup and is the color of butter. Bedstraw is the common name of a plant that was once used for stuffing mattresses and pillows. Thousands of such descriptive names were given to plants, and they continue to be used to this day. The only difficulty is that the same plant might have a number of different common names, depending on where it is found and what the local people originally called it. Queen Anne's lace is the common plant name in one location. Elsewhere, this plant is known as bird's nest, and in another place, wild carrot. In order to avoid confusion, a plant naming system was developed by a Swedish botanist, Carolus Linnaeus. His system was published in 1758. Plants were grouped according to their structural likenesses. Then each plant was assigned two names. This scientific system of naming plants, still in use today, is known as the binomial two-name system. The two names are almost always in Latin. The first name is always capitalized and indicates the group or genus to which the plant belongs. The second name is the descriptive word, usually an adjective. Together, the two names identify a given plant as a species. No two species have the same two words in their name. Thus, while scientists in different parts of the world may not know what plant is meant by Queen Anne's lace, bird's nest, or wild carrot, they will readily recognize it by its scientific name, Daucus carota. I'm pretty proud that Carl Linnaeus was Swedish, because I'm half Swedish, and I'm very proud of my heritage. So it's really fun that he's the one who named plants and started that system. The first flower I'd like to share is Daisy and Black-Eyed Susan. Isn't it pretty? And I'll share a picture of it. The word daisy comes from two old Anglo-Saxon words, dagus and agi, which mean day's eye. When the flower of the daisy, chrysanthemum, leucanthemum, first opens, the white circle of petal-like rays unfolds to uncover the yellow center, which is like the sun, the eye of the day. Farmers, irritated by the abundance of these plants, call them white weed. Girls and boys who like to pull off the white rays in order to find out whether or not their sweethearts love them have given the plant another common name. Love me not. Love me not. I know I've done that once or twice in my lifetime. The black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta, has bright yellow rays around a dark center or eye. The eye or central disc is not black at all. If you look closely, you will see brown and dark purple, but never black. In some places, people call this flower brown-eyed Susan or brown Betty. Another common name is simply yellow daisy. The next flower is Johnny Jump Up or wild pansy or heart ease. I just picked a bunch of these in my yard today and pressed them to be able to make earrings. They're jumping up like crazy already in our yard. We've got Johnny Jump Ups, grape hyacinth, regular hyacinth, daffodils, and one other one. We have 5 plants that are popping up right now. Anyway, these bright looking little flowers spring up almost anywhere. Gardens, lawns, old battlefields. For this reason, they're called Johnny Jump Ups. Viola tricolor. They are the wild ancestors of the large cultivated pansy and are frequently called wild pansies. The pattern of rich purple, blue, and yellow forms what looks like a thoughtful or pensive little face. The name pansy comes from the French word penser. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, meaning thought. The largest of the 5 petals has a nectar tube on the end near the stem. If you carefully peel off this petal, you can find Johnny seated with his 2 feet in a tub. The feet are 2 of the 5 stamens, and it looks as if Johnny is taking a foot bath. According to some other stories, it is a fairy bathing her tired feet. Johnny Jump Ups are so fun, and they grow literally everywhere. If you want them in your yard, then find them in a neighbor's yard, ask if you can have some, and then transplant them. They transplant really well. We actually have a neighbor that lives about 2 blocks south of us, and she has a whole yard full of Johnny Jump Ups. And for the last 3 seasons we've lived in our house, Kelly and I have gone and picked a bunch and transplanted them to our yard, and they're just jumping up all over the place. I'm so excited with how well they transplant. The next plant is called Heal All, or self-heal, or carpenter's weed on page 28. People used to believe that for every illness, there was a plant that could cure it. That's still actually true. Also, the structure of a plant was a guide in determining which ailment it could remedy. For example, if the leaf of a plant resembled the liver, this was considered to be a sign that the plant cured liver diseases. Or if the root of the plant was shaped like a foot, that plant was used for foot problems. How cool is that? I thought that was pretty neat. Heal All, Prunella vulgaris, is a low-growing plant bearing spikes of bluish-purple flowers. Each flower resembles an open mouth leading into a throat, and it was thought the plant was especially good for healing sore throats. However, it was also thought to be helpful in all kinds of sickness, so eventually it became known as Heal All. In fact, some people thought that they would never need to see a doctor if they had this plant growing nearby. They called the plant self-seal. It was often used by laborers when they injured themselves at work, so it also became known as carpenter's weed. Page 31, this one is called compass plant. One of the tallest flowering plants of the prairies, from Ohio to Alabama and westward to South Dakota and Texas, is the compass plant, Silphium lacinatum. It has been known to grow as tall as 9 feet. The enormous lower leaves stand upright. The edges of these leaves always face north and south, thus acting like a compass. When a pioneer or traveler used the compass plant to find his way across the prairies, the large yellow flower of this tall plant was almost like a signpost, easily spotted in the distance. And then she shares a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow called Evangeline. Look at this vigorous plant that lifts its head from the meadow. See how its leaves are turned to the north, as true as the magnet. This is the compass flower. I love that. I thought that was sweet. The next flower is called St. John's wort on page 32. St. John's wort, Hypericum perforatum, is named in honor of St. John the Baptist. The yellow flowers open on or about the same time as the Saints' Festival Day, June 24th. The sun is very high in the sky at this time of year, so St. John and the plant are considered to be chasers of darkness, of gloom, of evil, and of the devil. If a leaf of St. John's wort is held against the light, many small clear dots can be seen. According to legend, these are spots where the devil pricked the plant with a needle. The plant resisted, and from then on, the devil feared this plant. People regarded St. John's wort as holy and believed it would protect them from the devil. If the plant is bruised, the juice stains the fingers red. This was said to be the blood of St. John. The next one is on page 43. This is common milkweed or silkweed. They have the coolest seeds. Oh my gosh, I need to take a picture of a seed pod that I have for you. The first thing that may attract you to a patch of flowering milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, that's a tough one, is its heavy, sweet scent. Then you notice the attractive clusters of dull purple and brown flowers that produce this fragrance. And looking more carefully among the flowers, you notice a great variety of visitors: bees, beetles, flies, wasps, butterflies. They are guided to the milkweed by its perfume and remain to dine on its large supply of nectar. If you examine the underside of the plant's leaves, you may find what looks like a miniature pearl. This is the egg of the monarch butterfly. The young that hatch from it feed on the plant and the plant juices, which later protect the mature butterflies by causing them to be distasteful to birds and other predators. As a result, birds avoid the monarch along with any other butterfly that resembles the monarch, the viceroy, for example. If the stem of this plant is bruised, drops of a thick, milky liquid drip from the broken surface, suggesting the name milkweed. Inside the large pear-shaped seed pods that form in the fall are dark brown seeds with silken parachutes. On a clear, crisp autumn day, watch for the plumes of milkweed seeds as they go sailing by. They are so light, they just float like crazy. The silk from this plant has been used for stuffing pillows as well as for weaving cloth, and hence its other common name is silkweed. The next one is red clover or honeysuckers on page 46. There are many species of clover, but perhaps red clover, Trifolium potens, presents the loveliest sight and liveliest sound. Rosy flower heads nod as bumblebees hum among them. A head of clover is a collection of many little florets, each one resembling a miniature sweet pea. Pluck a few and suck them to taste the sweet nectar. It is no wonder that bees are so active among the clover blossoms, or that the plants are often called honeysuckers. Only bumblebees and butterflies have mouth parts equipped to reach deep down to the nectar supply. The word clover comes from the Anglo-Saxon word for club, clover, which refers to the three-knotted club belonging to Hercules of Greco-Roman mythology. The design for the club suit in a deck of playing cards is taken from the clover leaf. Clover has been an omen of good fortune since ancient times, especially the rare four-leafed clover. One leaf for fame and one for wealth, one for a faithful lover, and one to bring you glorious health are in a four-leaf clover. The next one is forget-me-not and buttercup. This is on page 51. Once upon a time, according to an old German legend, a beautiful girl walked with her lover along the banks of the Danube. She saw some bright blue flowers on a little island and expressed a wish for them. Her lover plunged into the water, swam to the island, and picked the blossoms. He started to return, but a swift current overpowered him. As he was swept past his sweetheart to his death, he threw the flowers at her feet, calling out, "Forget me not!" And she never did. For the lady, fair of her knight so true, still resembled the hopeless lot, and she cherished the flower of brilliant blue, and braided her hair with the blossoms blue, and then called it forget-me-not. That's by Bishop Mant. The scientific name for forget-me-not is Myosotis scorpioides. It is an old custom to hold the cup-like flower of the buttercup, Ranunculus acris, under a friend's chin. If the yellow of the flowers reflected on his skin, he's supposed to like butter. Another interesting but less familiar name for this plant is crowfoot. Look closely at the shape of the leaf, and you will see the resemblance. The next one is bouncing bet or soapwort. I have a special place in my heart for soapwort because it grows all over our yard. It actually came to my parents' house during a flood, which was a very sad time. We lost our cherry tree and a plum tree and a couple other things that we loved in our yard growing up. But we also got soapwort. And it grows everywhere, and it has a beautiful scent, and it is really easy to grow and doesn't need a lot of sun, doesn't need a lot of water. It's really low maintenance. This is on page 57. The slightest breeze causes the clusters of pink or white blossoms of the bouncing bet plant to bob up and down. This must have suggested to someone long ago a jolly active little girl. Bouncing bet. Bouncing bet, Saponaria officinalis, grows in large numbers along roadsides July to September. Here we actually have it start blooming in May, and if you deadhead it, each time that it grows, it actually blooms through October. The flowers are mildly fragrant by day, but their perfume increases at nightfall, and they are often pollinated by night-flying moths. All parts of this plant, and especially the leaves, contain a substance that makes a soapy lather when mixed with water. This gave the plant its genus name, Saponaria, from the Latin sapo, which means soap, as well as its other common name, soapwort. Women used it for washing their hair and for laundering fine woolens, linens, and silks. It is still used for such purposes in some countries. I really liked this one. I thought this was a sweet story. So this is, or a sweet meaning. This is passion flower or maypop on page 59. The beautiful purple and white passion flower, Passiflora incarnata, is a vining plant of the warm south. Parts of the flower head are thought of as symbols of Christ's sufferings on the cross. This suffering is also known as Christ's passion. The petals and sepals represent Christ's apostles. The fringe inside the petals and sepals is likened to the crown of thorns that Christ wore. The three sections of the pistil represent the nails of the cross on which he died. Some people see many other religious symbols in other parts of the flower, in its colors, and in its star-like appearance upon opening. Because it begins to bloom in May, this plant is also called maypop. I really love that this is a specific plant that is symbolic of the Savior and his suffering on the cross. He and Heavenly Father created all of the plants for us. Everything that you see in nature is something that they created. And it's a reminder of how much they love us. And I love that this one exists as a reminder of the suffering he made for us. The next one is on page 60. It's dandelion or blowball or lion's tooth. It has lots of nicknames. The yellow flowering dandelion, Taraxacum officinale, we'll go with that, blooms almost everywhere, every month of the year. It opens each day, but only when the sun shines. It closes at night. The word dandelion comes from the French dent de lion, which means tooth of the lion. The jagged leaf of the dandelion looks like a row of teeth in a lion's jaw. Examine the rays of this composite flower, and you will find that each floret has 5 little teeth at its edge. These are also compared to the teeth of a lion. The root of the plant is long and sturdy. When pulled up and peeled, it is very white, as clean as a wine's tooth, some claim. In the fruiting stage, the hundreds of little yellow florets form hundreds of little seeds or fruits. Each has its own parachute. Now the dandelion is an airy, delicate globe or blowball. People love to blow on it and make predictions or wishes. For example, it is thought that the direction in which the seeds fly shows where your lover is. Or if you want to know if your sweetheart is thinking of you, blow on a blowball. If any seeds are left, the answer is yes. I just read a really cute book for my story time called... I just forgot what it's called. I'll have to look it up and put it in the video, but it's about magic dandelions. You'll have to check that video out. Okay, this is on page 63. It's common mullein or Quaker rouge or torch flower. Quaker girls were forbidden to use face makeup. However, they discovered that by rubbing this leaf of the common mullein, Verbascum thapsus, lightly on their cheeks, they caused a slight irritation that brought a rosy color to their skin. I wouldn't want to do that, but whatever floats your boat. As this use of the plant became popular, some people called the plant Quaker rouge. Many years ago, people often put mullein leaves in their shoes because they believed that the slight irritation that resulted would improve their blood circulation. Not sure about that one either. Anything that is irritating to your skin doesn't sound good to me, but if it helps, it helps. These effects are caused by the downy branching hairs that cover both sides of the mullein leaves. The hairs make the leaves feel so soft that the plant has often been called velvet plant or flannel plant. Nope, flannel flower. The word mullein itself comes from the Middle English word moline, which means soft. Hundreds of years ago, Roman soldiers broke off the stout 6-foot spikes bearing the yellow mullein flowers, dipped the stalks in melted fat, set them aflame, and used them as torches to light their way. They called the plant torch flower. I thought that was pretty cool. That's a neat use of that plant too. Okay, on 67, asters and goldenrods. I just finished bagging up a ton of aster seeds. I'm getting ready for a garage sale for our family and bagging up all my seeds. I'll post a little picture of that too. There are more than 100 kinds of asters in the United States. Most of them are blue or purple. There is almost an equal number of different goldenrods. The spectacular New England aster, Aster norvii angeli, are the noticeably tall goldenrod. Yep, that's right. Okay. Solidago canadensis decorate fields and roadsides each autumn. The word aster is the same as the Greek and Latin word meaning star. The flower head of the aster looks like a star, and according to one myth, asters were created out of stardust. Goldenrods are indeed like rods of gold, as they hang heavy with flower. Frequently, you will see goldenrods with galls, or swellings, on their stems. These swellings are caused by a developing gall insect. When mature, the insects leave the gall through a tiny hole. According to an Indian legend, there were 2 little girls who were very good friends. As they walked through the fields one day, they talked about what they would like to do when they grew up. One, who had lovely golden hair, said she would like to do something that would make people cheerful. The other, who had beautiful blue eyes, said that what she wanted most was to be with her golden-haired friend. They met an old Indian squaw and told her their wishes. The squaw gave each one a magic corn cake. After eating the cakes, both girls disappeared. However, the next day, the 2 kinds of flowers appeared where they had walked, asters and goldenrods. The next one is cattails. This is on page 72. Cattails are found at the marshy edges of lakes and streams. They usually grow in bunches. The scientific name for the plant is Typha latifolia. Typha comes from the Greek word typh, meaning cat's tail, a vivid description of these brown tails that grow on tall spikes above pointed green leaves. In the spring, greenish-yellow male or staminate flowers crowd the upper part of the rounded spike. The mature stamens give off enormous amounts of pollen. If you haven't ever done a cattail, it is so fun. They look kind of, well, here's the picture. They look kind of like a hot dog. And you can grab it and you just brush your thumb down the side and they just, the seeds go everywhere. It's so fun. So the mature stamens give off enormous amounts of pollen, which can be collected and used as flour for bread, cakes, and pancakes. Toward the end of summer, these flowers have withered, leaving a rather bare and untidy-looking tail. Below, the male flowers grow the female blossoms. These consist mostly of pistils. As the season advances, this part begins to look like a fuzzy dark brown tail, neat and tidy, all along its 4 to 12-inch length. The next one is chicory or ragged sailors on page 75. You will find the clear blue flowers of the tall chicory plant, Chicoryum intybus, along roadsides, frequently in the company of Queen Anne's lace. Though usually blue, the flowers are occasionally white, and more rarely pink. They are at their brightest in the morning. By noon, they begin to look worn and ragged, and this, plus their blue color, explains the name ragged sailors. The large root of this plant runs deep underground. When roasted and ground, the root can be mixed with coffee or used as a coffee substitute called chicory. The genus name Chicoryum comes from the Latin succurrere, which means to run under. The next one is called groundnut or rosary root on page 76. The groundnut, Apios americana, is a wild bean vine found in the eastern United States from Michigan to Florida. It gets its name from the long strings of egg-shaped tubers that form along the plant's underground stem. The tubers are edible, cooked or raw, and long ago the Indians cultivated the plant from food. It is said that the abundance in food from this plant saved the lives of the Pilgrims during their first year in America. I thought that was pretty cool. Early French settlers gave it the name rosary root, as the long stem with its tubers reminded them of a string of rosary beads. In late summer, the vine bears short, thick clusters of pea-shaped blossoms. They are chocolate brown, velvety to touch, and very fragrant. You usually smell the flower before you see it. After the blossoms are gone, bean pods appear, and so the plant is also called wild bean. The pods dry and twist open, scattering the bean seeds. The plant reproduces itself from the seeds, as well as the underground tubers. The next one on page 78 is velvet leaf, or butterprint, or pie marker. It is not the yellow 1-inch flowers that make this plant remarkable so much as the very large heart-shaped leaves. They look soft and they really do feel like velvet. For this reason, the plant is called velvet leaf, Abutilon theophrasti. The large brown seed containers form a very attractive pattern. They're actually really cool seeds. At one time, these seed vessels were used to stamp decorations on butter and on pie crusts. For this reason, the plant also became known as butterprint and pie marker. The next one is called Queen Anne's lace or bird's nest or wild carrot on page 81. At one time, it was quite stylish for fashionable English ladies to use the lacy green leaves of Queen Anne's lace, Daucus carota, for personal decoration, especially in their hair. This may be the origin of the name Queen Anne's lace. However, some people claim that the name refers to the flowers, which resemble beautiful, delicate circles of lace. The white clusters are made up of many separate little flowers arranged like a flat-topped umbrella. The one in the center is usually deep red or purple. According to legend, it represents a drop of blood shed by Queen Anne when she pricked her finger while making lace. In late summer, when blossoming is over and the fruits begin to ripen, the sides of the flower head curl inward, creating a deep cup that resembles the nest of a bird. Thus, another common name is bird's nest. This plant is closely related to our cultivated carrot, and its root is said to have many medicinal purposes. Pull up a root and smell it. The sweet carroty aroma is immediately recognizable and explains the plant's other common name, wild carrot. And the last one I want to share with you is my very favorite flower, the sunflower. This is on page 83. According to Greek mythology, there was a water nymph named Clytie who decided one day to leave the ocean and visit the land. Clytie climbed to the top of Mount Olympus. There she saw the sun god Apollo and fell madly in love with him. But he loved someone else, and this made her very sad. Day after day, she did nothing but gaze at the sun from dawn to dusk until she sank into the earth, developed roots, and changed into a flower. As the plant grew and blossomed, it always turned its face toward the sun, reflecting the rays of Clytie's beloved Apollo. Because of this, the plant was named sunflower, Helianthus anus. The genus name comes from two Greek words, helios, which means sun, and anthos, which means flower. The sunflower is found throughout the United States and is the state flower of Kansas. I have a poster that I got when I was probably 11 or 12. I'm going to share with you about living your life as a sunflower. There are so many cool stories with flowers. This was, I think, just 50 different flowers, and I shared probably about 20 with you. But every single plant has a story and a name and a reason for why it's called what it's called. And I think it's so neat to study that and to see what the scoop is with different plants. I hope you enjoyed this book with me, learning a little bit more about these wildflowers and how their names came to be. And that you will stop and the next time you see a flower, just think, what is the story behind this plant? Why is this called a rose? The Shakespeare poem. Everything is created with lots of love and has a story. And I hope that you enjoyed learning this with me. Happy gardening, happy reading, happy studying.